welcome to episode 1 of the Odd Dad Out Live, broadcast live. That's right, I decided I was just going to do this one live again, coming from, again, the drive home from work. It is 3:30 a.m. on now Friday, July 24th. And what do we have on the menu for today? I came into today, I actually had a plan, I had it thought out, I had notes, I had it all set up to do a show about my pets today, and somewhere between writing notes this afternoon and getting to work and going through my entire evening, somewhere in the last 12 hours, I kind of thought, I don't need to do a show about just my pets. And I may do this in the future, and it came from doing, just going and picking up medication for my dog. I felt like, it's a good dad subject to talk about your pets or talk about pets in general. And I kind of fell into the trap that is the name of the show. And the name of the show, it's the Odd Dad Out podcast. And yeah, that, makes you think this is going to be a family-friendly show, and this is going to be all about family and being a dad and dadisms and things like that. And it's honestly not. It's just kind of what can I talk about? This is much more of a semi-humorous, and I guess the humor, how semi-humorous is dependent on, how many decent wisecracks I can make in one-liners, and do you even think it's funny? You might think that I'm boring as all hell, but if you came back for this episode, you at least found something entertaining, or it's a pity download. And hey, I'll take pity downloads all time. It's like, hey, some of the best stuff is pity sex. What is it? Breakup sex, pity sex. My wife and I will play video games, and we'll just kind of, forfeit. And it's pity points. It's like, and you play Mario Kart, and you're doing so bad, and you get that pity bullet that, sometimes you're so far back, you get the pity bullet, and you get the blue shell, and all that shit, and you still can't catch up. But, there's nothing wrong with the pity points. It's like, I'll take pity points, because right now, listeners are listeners. So, like, this is my second show. Listeners are listeners. I'll take whatever the hell I can get. Nevertheless, my wife has been very insistent since the idea of the show that it should be a dad-centric show. And I can't get behind that, because for me, I feel kind of pigeonholed in I've got to talk about dad things. And yeah, we're going to talk about dad things, but we're going to be talking about dad things in that sense of I'm a dad, therefore everything is my business. Pets are a dad thing because it's a family thing, but it's not necessarily I'm going to go out there and talk about pets, or I'm going to sit here and talk about grilling. And I will, but I'm not going to do it under the whole kind of family and sort of umbrella, because that's not really the show that I'm looking for. That's not, the idea of this show, and the whole premise of this is just very much just the randomness that I can come up with. It's what am I going to talk about today? What are we going to do that's going to, stimulate thought, or just amuse you and entertain you? Because ultimately, I'm here to entertain. I'm not here to inform. I am not some educational program. We're not an after-school special, because first off, it's 3:30 in the fucking morning. If you just got out of school, where the fuck are you? Then again, it could be like international shit, and I could have somebody from the other side of the world who just got out of school and they're listening to me, or you're downloading this and playing this months from now, and you actually just got out of school. But at the moment, we are streaming live to my Twitter page, and it's 3:30 in the fucking morning in Arizona on July 24th. So here we go. But back to the whole, I've thought about what are we doing, and we're here to entertain. I keep saying we. It's me. It is just me, and at the moment it is me and my phone. And the funny thing is that I have my office and my computer and my equipment and my mic and all my shit set up in my home, in my office, down at the end of the hall, and I also have all hardwood floors and 3 screamy children and a pregnant wife. I don't exactly have a quiet, calm environment to be recording even just a 30-minute show in my home right now. And we rent, so I can't exactly go in and pad the office walls, and it's still supposed to kind of be a guest room if we have guests, because we aren't exactly the most social people. But if we were to have guests and somebody had to stay over, that's technically supposed to be the guest bedroom. Pull out the old inflatable mattress and whatnot. But I just find it easier to record while I'm driving, which unfortunately does create this whole, road noise in the background, and you can hear every time I hit my turn signals and all that sort of stuff. But I guess it gives me the opportunity to just go, and I can talk and say whatever the hell I'm going to say and not have to worry about, can you hear the boys screaming downstairs? Are you hearing the dogs outside the door or the cats outside the door? Because, when you close the door in a house with cats, they're going to start scratching at the fucking door just because. And I really don't feel like sequestering myself in my office for 10 minutes until the cats stop fucking scratching just so I can do a show. But again, there's this we. I don't know why I keep saying we. It's me. This show is brought to you by the letter me and the number 337, because that's what time it is, and I needed to go with this fucking Sesame Street joke somewhere. And, the time thing. And I just remembered I never got that fucking Iron Chef thing going. I need to do that, and I need to do this probably first thing tomorrow, otherwise I'm not going to fucking remember it. Or I'm just going to attach this to the pre-recorded shows that aren't going live, because it's easier to do when I can just add the effect after. Well, sorry about that. It's 3:30 in the morning, and even though I work at night, I still get tired because it's 3:30 in the fucking morning, because I have 3 children, and I still wake up at 7, in the morning, 8 if I'm lucky. It's like suddenly, I'm at that point where sleeping until 8 o'clock is sleeping in. It's that wonderful thing about, being a parent of multiple children, is that you look forward to, when you're, the age when you were in high school, 8 o'clock was early. Now it's, I'm a responsible adult. I can't sleep in that early. I have to feed the children. But I wouldn't trade being a parent for anything. I honestly, I was weird like that. I actually had like an imaginary family and imaginary kids. I didn't have an imaginary friend. I had an imaginary wife and children. And so I always wanted to settle down. I'm odd. I'm kind of weird that way. I mean, I'm weird in a lot of ways, but that was one of those weird things that even my wife now, it's like, what do you mean you had an imaginary family? She said she has had an imaginary cat. My wife was bound and determined from an early age to be an old cat lady, and I kind of fucked that plan into the ground. She's like, oh, I'm never having kids. I plan on being an old cat lady all by myself. It's like, all right, good luck with that. 4 boys later, here we are. But, she's, as much as she said she didn't want to ever have kids, she will openly, and I would hope she'd openly admit, she loves our boys, and she wouldn't give up our children. You know, sometimes she might want to give them away, but she wouldn't give up our boys and our life. You know, she has learned what it is to be a mom and to have the crazy little monsters we do, and know that love of being a mom. You know, I'm going on boy number 4 now, and I still cry every time we have another kid. You know, that doesn't go away. You know, if you're a good dad, that doesn't go away. You know, I mean, I'm a really emotional person anyway. You know, I'm one of those, and my wife will make fun of me, and my sister will make fun of me, that I see one of those movies that's kind of dad-centric, or it's just like an emotional. I like those dad movies where it's about the dad and the kids, and they have that connection or that, and they're usually really cheesy. They're not so much chick flicks. They're usually like those family comedies. Yes, it's a new word. It's a family. It's in the new Disney family movie. But one of my favorite Disney family movies is actually The Game Plan with The Rock, because, and I don't know, maybe it's because I just like The Rock and I honestly think he's a good actor as an action star, but he's a really funny guy. The dude is just damn hilarious. He takes his work seriously, but he doesn't take himself seriously. I actually saw a story the other day where a bunch of girls ran into him at the gym and were sitting there giggling at him while he was doing his workout, and they interrupt The Rock's workout. You can't interrupt The Rock's workout. But these little giggly girls interrupt his workout, so he goes and finds their mom so they can take a selfie together. Because he's the fucking Rock and he can do that sort of shit. You know, I heard a story where he sideswiped a dude and fucked up and ripped a dude's mirror off and sideswiped him on the street, and the guy was so excited that he got to meet The Rock and got to have his picture taken with The Rock that he didn't even call the insurance. He's like, you know, and he'd offered to pay for all the damages. Like, dude, look, no, don't worry about it. He was late for a movie set or something and sideswiped a dude's truck and ripped his mirror off, and you know, and he offered to pay it all. He was like, I don't even worry about insurance, I'll pay for the damage. It's like, dude's like, no, don't worry about it. The story is worth it. It's like, you know, he's just a nice guy and he's a funny guy, and you know, it's hard to not like The Rock as a person. You may not like the wrestling character, may not like him as a wrestler or whatever, because you're not a fan of wrestling, but I think he's an excellent entertainer. The guy can just entertain. Not a lot of people can entertain to the capacity that he can. But again, I just start a subject and I go off, and we went from pets and emotions to we're talking about The Rock sideswiping a dude's truck, and that's just kind of the way my brain goes. I kind of wander, but again, you know, but I like those kind of movies, and I guess I like him in those movies because he's done a handful of those Disney family movies that I would put The Game Plan over The Pacifier with Vin Diesel any day. You know, you believe The Rock as a football player dad. You don't really believe Vin Diesel as the babysitter, even if he's supposed to be like a Marine who's taking care of his partner's, you know, kids after he gets killed or kidnapped or whatever the hell was going on. I forget. You just don't believe it. You don't feel him in that movie. Whereas when The Rock picks up the little girl at the restaurant and runs her to the hospital because she's having a peanut allergy from her lunch, you believe that and you feel that pain. And maybe because I'm really emotional like that and I'm cheesy and whatever, screw you guys, I'm a dad. I can sit there and get choked up, and I sit there and I'll cry, and you know, I'm not going to be sitting there, you know, bawling my eyes out, but I'm going to be choked up and I'm going to be, you know, tearing up because it's an emotional moment and it's a dad thing, and screw you guys, you know, for having emotions. But I'm like that. I watch old chick flicks, and because I'm a movie person, so I'll watch a little of everything. And between my mom and having 3 sisters, I've seen every chick flick worth seeing up until the early 90s. Mid 90s. And I thoroughly enjoy them. And I'm probably one of the few straight men in the world who can recite all of Steel Magnolias from memory in character, because why are you going to recite a line from a movie and not do it in proper character? You can't just, read a line from Forrest Gump and just read a line. You can't say life's like a box of chocolates. It's gotta be life is like a box of chocolates. But that line is not in the movie anywhere like it is in the trailer. They'll show it in the trailer, and the way he says it in the trailer isn't in the movie. It's like, Mama doesn't even say it like that in the movie. But, that's part of me. I feel like, hey, I can recite a movie in character. Damn it. Do it right. Don't take creative freedom that already existed. Tom Hanks already had that creative freedom. He took it. Don't fuck up his movie, goddammit. Did I tag this explicit content? I hope I did. By this point, I think I need a disclaimer. But that's what the little explicit content big red tag there is on it. Because, there's profanity. There's always going to be profanity. This was supposed to be a show about pets, and it still turned out with profanity. But I probably would have, said something, like talk about, that fucking dog. Sometimes, I don't know. But it's, what as it is. See where we're going. Wow, I just think this is like the first red light I've hit on this entire trip, and there's more cars here than I usually see. I guess it's, people getting up and going to work now, because it's damn near 4 a.m. And it's a little weird. It's a Friday morning now, technically. But it's kind of weird to see this many people on the road at 3:47. But we've still got half of our show to go, I believe, if I'm looking at the clock. I'm not looking at the clock, so I really couldn't tell you. But I know I started the show a little bit later than I do in my drive. I say like I do. It's only the second show. By all accounts of subject matter, this is the first show. That's why this says episode 1. This isn't episode 0. Episode 0 was me fumbling over my ass for 10 minutes until I started talking about inspiration. And I got a lot of creative criticism back from family, well, exclusively family, because that's the only people that listen to the show the first time. And I don't know that many people. Again, I'm not a social person. I don't have friends, air quotes, friends. I got guys that I talk to at work, and I've got family, and I, grew up in a great big ass Mexican family, so I've got a fuck ton of family. My wife got scared shitless by that when my grandfather died. She had to go to the funeral, or she didn't have to, but we went to the funeral. She had not yet met anybody outside of my middle sister and my mom and my brothers as far as members of my family, and wasn't aware that I was one of 7 children, and I had like umpteen dozen cousins, and came from what can only be described as a big-ass Mexican family. And you're probably thinking, how the hell did you marry this girl and she didn't even know all these things about your family? I lived in Texas. 99.9% of my family is in Arizona now. We've relocated to Arizona now. But at the time, she basically knew the family that lived in Texas, which was my brothers and my dad. And she had met my sisters, one of my sisters, at my brother's wedding. That's it. She knew that I was, half Mexican. She didn't register what that means. And so when my grandfather, who was absolutely the rock, the foundation, the, head of our entire family, when he died, we came out to Arizona, as we were still living in Texas at the time. We came out to Arizona for the funeral, which was essentially standing room only in a 110-year-old church. I think my garage in my house is bigger than this church, but this funeral was standing room only. Fortunately enough, we were able, we had good seats. I was a pallbearer, so I was right up front. No screwing around there. But also, as we are first generation cousins and all of that, and since I was a pallbearer and my mom is, all of the, the children had to be up front, and so we all had to be early. So we got there damn early. We got seats. I mean, my seat was reserved and all that, but we had seats. But this entire church and the rectory across the street were packed to the gills and standing room only for this man's funeral. My wife essentially had to meet my entire family. Probably 150 cousins and whatnot in a day at a time. And it was shock. But she wasn't alone in this. My oldest sister had actually gotten married within the last year, and he hadn't met anybody in the family outside of my mom and sisters. He hadn't met any of the extended family either, so they were in it together. It's like they met on this trip, and they basically were kind of, partners in crime, and we are meeting the family here together. And they were just saying, I wish I had a photo album so that I could remember all these. Like, okay, you are Ryan, and your mom is Susan, and your sister is, and she, to this day, she's still, 6 years later, the only reason she can keep some of them straight is because of who's who on Facebook. But of all of the 100 plus, immediate first cousins that she met on this trip, I don't think she could recognize more than 3 of them. That's just the way it is. And, big ass Mexican family, so. But I don't even know how I got into family. I really don't. And that's just kind of the, A goes to B, goes to C, goes to W, goes to there goes a squirrel. And, that's just kind of the way it is. And that's what live shows are about. And that's what my live shows are absolutely going to be about. I don't think I'm going to be able to do a live show that actually has a subject. I think when it comes to live show, it's just going to be, I'm going to start with something. We're going to push that little pebble down that snow hill. It's going to pick up some whatever the shit, and we're just going to keep rolling until we've got this giant ball of what the fuck were we talking about for the last 30 minutes. But it's fun that way, and I think it's a lot more natural for me to talk this way and to go on this sort of A, B, C, D, E, because for me to sit and just say, I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about A. Here's my subject. I'm going to talk about my pets. You don't want to fucking hear about my pets? Maybe you want to hear about my pets. But really? That you're listening to my show and you want to hear about my pets? I mean, maybe. We'll do it. I'm eventually going to do a show about my pets. We've got enough of the fucking things. We've got 2 dogs, 2 cats, 5 fish, and a fucking turtle. We can talk about some pets for 30 minutes. I probably could do a 3-part series about my goddamn pets. But I'm not doing that today. I think subject, and we're discussing this today, is going to be a pre-recorded, nice, edited refined, polished show that I sat there and recorded with somebody and with my microphone and my computer, and you guys stay the hell downstairs. Daddy's working on a show, and we're going to do this, and we're going to refine it, and we'll have a subject, and I'll tell you in advance. I'll post it up on the page. Next week's show, we're talking about this, and I don't even know if I'm even going to be able to go a week without doing a show, because shit pops into my head and I just go. And just like tonight, I had no intention today of recording a show today. I just had this idea of, okay, I think I'll do a show on pets for my next show. And because it's kind of a dad subject, I'll do a show on pets. And I threw that shit the fuck out. At least for today. I've kind of got the idea of, I've got enough space, I've got enough time that I could theoretically do a show every single day. I could do 30 minutes every single day for a month and just take the weekends off, Monday through Friday, and I could do a live show Monday through Friday for a month, and every show could be posted up and available at the Odd Dad Out page on Spreaker, available. Everything's going to be linked back to the Odd Dad Out Twitter page. I'm going to get a Facebook page set up for this, I swear. It just takes sitting down and setting shit up. But it should be coming up on iTunes soon enough. I've got to look into it, because I know iTunes and picking up shit takes time. But however you're choosing to listen to me, even if I sent you a text message that said, hey, here's my show, I appreciate it. I appreciate every single person that clicks play, that downloads it. I'm going to, probably stick to this. Live is whatever the fuck I'm going to push that ball down the hill format. I'm going to have some, nice, polished, recorded, non-live content, not driving home at 3 a.m. content. But I think those are going to be where I have an interview, and I'm going to sit down. I'm probably going to have a lot of family come in. I have this idea, and for those of you that are family that are out there listening to my show, MG, Morgan, hell, Dad, this is the Odd Dad Out podcast. I've got 2 other dads in the family I can talk to. Well, I've got a few other immediate dads in the family I can talk to. We're all fucking odd dads. I would gladly sit there and interview, or just sit there and do a show. Like, we could hook up on Skype or something and do a show talking to another dad. Just about whatever the fuck. Why? Because we're all odd dads, especially in this family. And talk to my odd sisters that, because we're just all fucking tweaked in the head. But I think it'd make a slightly more entertaining show to have somebody else to talk to besides you, the listener that's out there in internet land. But oh, look at that. We're almost out of time. I guess it's just, I got more comfortable today. And I think that was the point for me, was I'm going to just go. I'm going to record, and I'm going to broadcast, and we're going to have this show, and we're going to play this show until I get this shit right, and until I feel comfortable and you feel comfortable and I get the polish on this shit. And maybe we're going to scratch some of that paint off a little bit, and we're going to figure shit out. But we're going to do this, and we're going to go, because it's fun, and I want to have fun, and I want to have fun with you, and I want your feedback. So send me messages, Odd Dad Out on Twitter. You know me, you know where my Facebook page is until I get that shit set up. Send me comments on the Spreaker page if you find it directly, Spreaker.com/users/OddDadOut. Again, I'm throwing it all up on Twitter, so you should, send it to me on Twitter at OddDadOut. One word. I'll have little fun tidbits on there, Damienisms of the day and whatnot. But until next time, thank you and good night from the Odd Dad Out podcast.